Hello, everybody. Welcome to ZeldaSpeedRuns, broadcasting the A Link to the Past NMG League Season 2. We got the Light World Round 1 for you today. It's ph112358 versus retrommel. Commentating for us, we have Malmo and Twinmel. Say hello, everybody.
Hello.
Good evening, Malmo.
How's it going? Are you excited about this one?
I am. I almost missed it because for some reason in my brain it was an hour later.
Ooh.
So good thing I checked Discord.
That's okay. You could catch Dark World. That's where all the fancy stuff happens anyway. No skill in the Light World. Lamno's easy. Moldorm's easy. Nothing bad ever happens.
Hera is like the most consistent split ever. Said nobody.
Yeah, the whole thing is
ever.
Scripted. Every rock is scripted to land on you as you arm spin speed up the stairs.
And every squirrel is scripted to get in your way. So this is Light World bracket. Is that correct?
Correct. And we have PH who has a 129 and retrommel has a 127. And if I'm not mistaken, both of them got these times very recently. I think one of them is only 8 days old. According to SRC, the other one is a month old. So these runners have been hard at work on their PBs.
Always nice to see NMG being played when it's not tournament. You know what I mean?
Yeah, people playing it for fun.
Yes, it's always fun. Yeah. So, for those of you who may not know, Light World is, when it comes to the league, is just a bracket name. It's just runners with a slightly slower time than those in the Dark World bracket. So it's not that they're running just the Light World or just the Dark World. They're playing the whole game. But it's just a way to differentiate the different brackets.
Yeah, kind of funny, implying that Light World is easier than Dark World, which it's not. They're all hard. Every split is hard. Every split requires skill.
I can't remember. I think it was in another stream this morning or earlier today. I think Light World is scrutinized more because there's less splits to compare, and it's harder to make up time in the Light World. Whereas the Dark World, like they said, if you lose 10 seconds in one split, you have 6 more splits to make that up in. Light World, you just don't have that. So starting off the run with a bad Light World, it's really hard to come back from.
Yeah, and Light World is the thing that you play over and over again when you reset. So the little time losses feel a little harder. But in a race, it's a little different because you can think about it. Instead of trying to race yourself, you're racing your opponent, which may sound like it's more pressure, but actually you are your own worst enemy. Like, you are playing against the very best version of yourself, and you know what your best version of yourself has done, and they played perfectly, and you don't know that your opponent's playing perfectly in any given race, and that takes some of the pressure off.
Now, that being said, these runners can watch the restream or watch the other runners stream if they want. Where it's vanilla, we don't have to worry about spoilers or anything, so it's perfectly acceptable. In fact, you might see one or both of them. I don't know if they watch restream. Occasionally you'll see runners pop up in chat with little spoilers because they are just a little bit ahead.
I always like it when runners are presumably chatting while doing something difficult.
Oh yeah, like they're in the middle of the blind fight on the restream, and they're in there chatting, and like, what?
Yeah, they got one hand on the controller and one hand on the keyboard. And only one of those is controlling the game.
Alright, so Retro took a few extra hits from Ball and Chain, which isn't the end of the world, but PH is in a better health standpoint for the rest of Eastern. Or not Eastern, Escape. See, I just want to skip past Escape.
Escape's boring. You do it so much.
It's so boring.
Especially if you're a resetter. And now having missing health isn't slowing you down in the same way that it would in a split where it puts you in danger. In fact, you actually get a little bit of a speed boost if you are not playing on whatever you play on Twin.
I play on the classic, so I get free rat frames every single time.
So for the rest of us, if you're missing enough health to beep, you actually save some frames on the Zelda text. But it's not like worth getting hit, because getting hit takes time, and you can see that Retro is just a tiny bit behind. And you're gonna see me nitpicking the escape like this, like, oh, 2 seconds, 1 second. We're gonna forget all of this once we're in the Dark World, because all it takes is like one missed hammer jump, and suddenly it's like an insurmountable lead until Turtle Rock. And then it's an insurmountable lead in the other direction. So you never know what's going to happen in an NMG race.
There's so many things that can happen along the way. So many things. I don't want to jinx anything or commentator curse or anything like that. But yeah, there's so many things that can happen. We never want to call a race until the winner has crossed the bridge.
Yeah, and I challenge all the viewers to, when the race ends after you put in your GGs, try and remember which of the 2 runners got hit by ball and chain guard in the beginning of the race. I wouldn't be surprised if nobody remembers. Nice double boom on the snake. That was kind of cool. And case in point, I already forgot which runner got the double boom on the snakes, but it was cool to see.
It was Retro. And
Thank you.
I think they picked up a heart under a pot somewhere. I didn't notice it, but they have a 1.5 hearts now. So
yeah, and you might be thinking like, why? It's optimal to have beeps. It's also annoying to have beeps. Just, sometimes you just have to take care of yourself and end the beeps. Nice key rat. Unfortunately gets a diagonal boom because he was moving diagonally when he went for it. But still better than getting a high up key rat.
These rats can be such bullies. They only do a 1/4 heart of damage, but they can be just so relentless and mean.
Yeah, and here's, Retro back down to 1 heart just in time to get some free frames out of it. And look at that, their escapes are basically the same. So none of it mattered. The race has begun. We are exiting the sanctuary, and we can start talking about who's ahead.
Both runners will probably pick up Sank Heart, which will refill their health and give them an extra heart container. We probably won't see anybody skipping that in Light World bracket.
Sanctuary Heart is like the last safety that anybody drops in NMG, because even the highest skilled runners argue about whether it's actually saving time. Sometimes it's like, okay, it's easier to get to full health and get beams, or it costs 6 seconds to get, but also like the strats that you have to do to avoid dying when things do go wrong. That's easily just gobbling up the 6 seconds you save, especially in a race.
Oh yeah, the amount of times we hear shoutouts to Sank Heart in some of these races is well worth the 6 seconds to pick it up. So for those of you who might be confused, we're talking about cheater frames. That's just the SNES Classic runs at a consistent frame rate, if I'm remembering right, or something like that. And so you constantly get basically the beep frames as you're coming out. All they do is just make the text in the Sanctuary go a little bit faster.
But at the same time, I think you're losing time to hardware anyway, to original, because of the frame rate, the native frame rate of the hardware. So it's not really cheating. It's just you get it back.
Just for the Eastern split. Yeah,
it's like a little refund for not playing on original hardware. But anyway,
still a very valid setup to run on.
Yeah.
If that's what you have, that's what you have, and you can get into this game. No, we have, I think we have a couple of 124 runners that we're doing it on emulator. So, emulator, original hardware, or like the SNES Classic, all great options if you want to get into speedrunning this game.
You can even play on keyboard. I know a few people who do. So it's a very accessible game to get into. The only thing you really want is that original Japanese 1.0 cart that you can upload and get a ROM from, and you can speedrun the game yourself. Or you can just play on your Switch version and lose a little time, and it doesn't matter. It's a fun game.
Yeah, so we do prefer running on the Japanese 1.0 because of glitches that were patched out in those later versions.
Yeah, there's a few. It's not that many, and most of them aren't even really used in this run. But it's like spin speed is the big one. You'll see it after Eastern when we get the boots. You go zoomy without having to charge a dash, and without losing it when you turn around. Retro having a little bit of trouble in damage boost. This room is impossible. I don't understand it. You just go in and you try and grab the pot, and your hands slip on the pot, and you don't hit the switch because you're in iframes, and it's terrible.
Or you mash the button trying to pick up the pot, and you don't pick up the pot, and you get hit out, and next thing you know, you're down to like half a heart, and you're like panicking.
But whatever happened to Retro is not slower than doing the room as intended, which is killing all the enemies, and that takes forever.
And then you have to dodge all of the anti-fairies because they disperse and go all over the room, and so that's even slower.
And you probably die anyway when that happens because the anti-fairies get in your way. So, even if you die, you're probably going to die anyway. So this room is a little... it's one of those rooms that looks straightforward, but you can actually gauge how fast the person is going by looking at the anti-fairies. And see whose movement is optimal, and your movement being optimal in that room is kind of a reflection of how it is throughout the game. It's what separates the 124 runners from the 126 runners and so on. Those little invisible time saves that add up over time.
That, to most people just watching, you probably would never notice those little time saves until you start running and you realize how bad you are at the game because you can't get that room like ever.
Both runners getting the quick kill on Armos Knights. If you kill them without seeing red, you've done a good job. I can see PH. We can see their splits when we watch. PH uses sub-splits and got some gold donuts in Eastern. So that was nice. Not in Eastern itself, but in Armos. So that was on par with his usual fast Armos fight. It's good to see in the race. Very easy for things to just go wrong.
Yeah. Now we're going to go talk to Grandpa, and we'll get to see that both of these runners will be doing tree pole rupees to get our money for an upcoming split after Aga Tower. But we got to get these boots because they help us go fast.
Wow, I did not know PH does tree rupees. They both do tree rupees.
Yeah.
You knew this ahead of time.
No. The only reason I knew is the way they lined up.
Oh my goodness.
So
see, this is why you're on comms with me, because I don't run this category. I get bombs in that room because I need bombs. I don't know.
I still get Grandpa money. I rob Saha's closet. But when you're not getting the Saha rupees, you just walk straight up from the door.
Oh, okay.
Whereas, like me, personally, I always angle to the right just a little bit so that you're talking to him from the side so you can just go straight up from there to get into the closet.
Yeah, you diagonal a little bit.
Yep. It was an assumption by me, but it turned out to be true, so we're going to say that I knew.
Well, you definitely did, because you were correct. So the book required to get into Desert Palace. It's a little detour you have to take. It requires a lot of boots movement. It's the first time you really get to use the boots for their intended purpose in the run. Like, the first use of the boots is spin speed. It's a glitch. This is the first part of the run where you actually use them normally. And there's a lot of screens where you have to dash in certain ways that bait the enemies to not aggro on you in the wrong way. And the screen that PH is approaching is also a nudge you want to do to make sure that you're not dashing on the water and getting slowed down. That's why he does this menu buffer there, so you can see that he's lined up correctly. Retro gets it as well.
Yeah, it's amazing how much time you can lose to bad dashes. Like, you wouldn't think you'd be losing time because you're still dashing, but there's so many little things about dashing, like dash turns, or getting the correct pixel on the grass as you're going through and cutting it, because there's a fast pixel and there's a slow pixel. Also, slope dashes. It's so crazy how using the boots, which are fast, can be slow. Does that make sense?
Yep. There is definitely a wrong and a right way to run. And you think like, oh, it's just always the same. No, every run has its own rules. For example, you're going to see them open the big chest to this dungeon to get the gloves. And you're going to see them dash in a tiny space that doesn't look worth it. And it turns out it is because of a thing called stair drag, where dashing will actually cancel the stairs speed movement. And it's just, the whole game is just like that. It's all little things like that. And each room has 1 or 2 ways to lose 30 to 60 frames, and it adds up.
Yeah, like doors in general. Some doors, you can hold a left direction or right direction right out of the door. Other ones, you have to take a step out of the door before you can make any movement.
Yeah, they just used one of those doors. You wouldn't know about it. They're just walking through a door. No, this door is special. And you have to walk out of it a certain way to make sure that you're not losing frames. Both runners are doing pretty well in money in this run as well. I saw Retro go out of his way to pick up a red rupee, which will save time on tree rupees later. That means he doesn't have to go out of his way for one of those rupees later on.
Both of them are great on arrows, too. You want to see as close to 30 arrows as possible going into the Landmo fight, which is the boss of this dungeon. Not because you're going to, hopefully, use them all on this boss, but because you're going to need some of those arrows a couple splits down the road.
Nobody going for the very risky desert spin speed, which I like to see because it's a race. It's not worth it.
It's so scary.
Yeah, if you fall off there, you lose 1,000,000 years. You have to re-enter desert. You have to pull out your book, which I guess you already have, but still, you have to open the book and you have to read a passage out of the front page.
A lot of it depends on where you menu, though. So a lot of runners, if they do the spin speed there, will menu to lamp.
Oh, of
there.
course.
And so if you somehow fall down after that menu, you've got to remenu and then go through the dungeon again.
So what you're saying is if you miss desert spin speed and somehow still have your book out, you probably deserved it because you were doing an unbuffered desert spin speed.
Correct.
All right, Lambo. Lambo is one of the hardest fights to optimize. PH gets a nice beginning. The beginning is kind of scripted, except that there's still RNG, but it helps to get as many arrows as possible into them when you can kind of predict where they're going to spawn. Everything after that is total chaos, and you just have to be good at aiming. And counting.
Aiming the bow is sometimes impossible. Especially when your targets are moving, and yeah.
And the bow, you can only fire an arrow if there's not already an arrow in flight. I'm a little bit worried about Retro's health here, because Lambo does do a heart of damage, but he almost gets collided into, but gets that last hit on the final Lambo and survives the fight.
And they both have plenty of arrows left for the next 3 splits. Because you don't use any in Hera, and you use a few in Agatower, and then some in Pot. Sorry, I'm still learning the arrow route and everything, so I want to keep up on this kind of stuff.
Alright, coming up we have a glitch called Fake Flipper. This is another one of those Japanese 1.0 glitches. We do a setup to hit the screen transition at the right time by lifting that bush or slashing it. And what you're doing is you are jumping into the water and transitioning before it has a chance to generate the splash that kicks you out. It's a little bit risky because if you get hit while in that state on the next screen, you will soft lock.
Which in a regular run would mean that you'd have to reset. But in tournament races, we usually allow the players to save and quit and just start at either Link's house or Sanctuary. I can't remember.
I
have to
don't
step
know
away
either.
I have to
Save
step
and
away
quit
for
is
just 1 second.
okay.
I'll be
Save
right
and
back.
quit is normally banned. Yeah, so that's the one place in the race setting because we do want the race to continue. And if you soft lock there, you're probably super behind anyway. But yeah, it doesn't happen that often. We got both runners are past that point and now on to the part that actually kills runs usually by killing Link, not just by having slow llama fights. So as you can see, cabbages fall from the mountain, and you cannot always control if they're going to hit you while arming spin speed or while turning the old man. It's a little bit unfair. So you just have to accept that you might walk into Tower of Hera without full health, and do your best when you're in there. Retro getting better luck on the stair, able to arm a spin speed without getting hit, but PH did pretty well too, despite getting bad luck. Only gets 1 heart of damage from that bad luck hit, and everything else went smoothly for him.
Okay, I'm back. What did I miss?
We are entering Tower of Hera with health.
That's legal?
I know it wasn't intentional, but I kind of like how PH double menu buffered to not get owned by the Moldorm.
He was not happy about that red rupee drop, though, and not getting it.
He's doing fine with money, though, right?
As far as I know, I don't do tree rupees, so I don't know.
Alright, nothing fancy in this room.
Nope.
There's only one way to save time in this room, and it requires 3 same frame inputs. So you don't see that very much from the Light World bracket. It's something you'll do if you're like bored. Saves a little time, and if you do it right, you can actually take your hands off the controller and drink some coffee or whatever. But I think everyone who's in here is just happy to be alive.
Unless you're Yoho, and they always go for pot spin speed, which is a fun little thing if you've never seen it.
Yeah, it doesn't save time, but
Nope.
it looks cool and it keeps you busy.
So yeah, the basement of Hera is pretty boring.
Lighting torches is impossible, by the way.
Torches and pots are the worst.
Torches have a force field around them, and pots have glue on them, so you can't throw them. We actually had a runner die in Hera in a previous race today because he failed to throw a pot quickly enough. Alright, we got bomb jump to the Moon Pearl here. Is significantly faster than dropping down from above, the intended way. There's a faster way to do the bomb jump, but it's not very race safe. So only some runners who are very comfortable with it will do. Ooh, okay. BH going for the bumper skip, recognizes that he's not on it and saves himself before falling. Very good. Nice arrows for Retro.
Oh yeah, I love it when the Kadonko drops the arrows.
It was a good consolation prize for getting hit. You know, he has 4 hearts, which is fine. He didn't super need all this help from Moldorm, hopefully. But the arrows are nice to have. And he is, like, super flush with arrows. 17 is very nice to have here.
Very nice. Pretty clean fight on PH's side. And by clean, I mean we didn't get knocked off like Retro
Like
just
Retro
did.
did. Moldorm is a bully. Sometimes you just get cornered and you panic, or you don't have a easy way out, or you're just trying to end the fight quickly and...
Or you hit his hitbox or his head weird and it bounces you off into Never Never Land and you can't stop yourself.
Moldorm's being a lot kinder this time. Retro's handling it very well. But this is a bit of an awkward place to phase him, being below him like that, but Retro gets it. So that fall costs a little bit of time, but I think we have seen people come back from worse. Oh no.
That bonk is always a feel-bad moment.
Yeah, pausing while you're in the bonk animation, knowing that disaster will strike and there's nothing you can do about it, is... it's a feeling. Okay, here's how tree rupees work. If you pull that and you have taken damage, you'll get blue rupees. Afterwards, you kill 4 enemies without taking damage, you will get red rupees. So that means it's very important for PH not to get hit during this sequence. Like that. Just hope that you don't get a bush guard and panic. Most of the time, you can run over those and whatever traps they lay, you're fine. But it's possible to just get thrown off by them.
For sure. There is a backup tree pull if you do get hit after you do that first tree pull. It's in the courtyard of the castle, which is where we're heading next. But it is a little bit trickier to do, and it's obviously slower. Alright, Retro, who just got told by Zelda to go to the sanctuary, is going to completely ignore her and just head to the castle to fight the wizard. Oh, he's not doing that tree pull. I guess he had to kill an enemy.
PH dashed up the log, but I guess he mistimed it because he didn't actually kill the enemy when he ran through the bird. And he recognized that. He counted. So very, very good that he doesn't just pull the tree. You can see when Retro dashes up the log, the bird dies. That didn't happen on PH's side somehow.
I think he may have just mistimed it.
Yeah, that's what it looked like. It looked like he went a little bit high, and the bird just kind of went under him instead of through him.
But you can see each runner has at least the 110 rupees that they will need for Palace of Darkness to pay off the mobster monkey, so Kiki will open the door.
Yeah, this is like the one place where you're actually farming rupees a few at a time. After that, you get some chests that have 300 rupees in them, and they give you enough to buy the flippers from Zora.
Oh, we're getting Din. Oh, he doesn't have beams. Okay.
Right. I think PH lost beams to Katy Perry on the mountain, so it's the dead rock. Oh no, he lost beams because he bonked in the descent cave. That's right.
Yeah, and he apparently doesn't know the dash strat for that room with the 2 blue guards after the gold ball and chain.
Right.
So he got his fairy drop.
Right. So why are we worried about a fairy drop here?
Because those share a prize pack with another enemy in Turtle Rock, which we really, really want a fairy in Turtle Rock. Just because, for a couple of reasons. 1, because the dungeon's easier with beams. And 2, because everything in that dungeon hits like a frickin' truck. And it is so easy to lose hearts.
Well, it's not just easy to lose hearts, but you lose hearts on purpose. There's a damage boost that you do very early on, and you do that damage boost on the assumption that you're going to get your health back. So maybe we'll see PH do, if he remembers, he might do a mirror out strat to avoid the damage boost. It'll cost 4 seconds, but will save him the hearts that you would normally take, making the rest of the dungeon quite a bit safer.
Yeah, we're just going through some, well, look like easy rooms because these runners are good, but these are actually pretty technical rooms.
Yeah, I'm not sure what retrommel was going for there. It almost looked like he was trying to go for a double spin from below, which I'd never seen before, but it didn't work out. So he had to spend a little bit of extra time in that room. Sorry, I don't know the names of the rooms. I think that one's called Red Alert.
Yeah, I think it's Red Alert too. I haven't practiced Aga Tower enough to know all of the the room names. You saw Retro stutter a little bit with that dash. My guess is that he tried to hold the up button while he was dashing along the side of that pit. Which, because pits are weird in this game, it actually cancels your dash. So, in order to dash up there, you have to do what's called a neutral dash, which is just not hold a direction at all. Also, I wasn't counting blue balls on PH's side. So, really not much going on this split. Yeah, we're just reflecting the balls that we can back to Aga to hurt him and trying to avoid getting hit by the blue balls.
Yeah, I forgot to count, so maybe chat can help out. It looked like PH didn't get that many. Retro looks like he's getting a lot.
I think I've counted 3 for Retro so far.
4?
4 now.
I always hate seeing the person who's behind getting more blue balls. You really want them to get the same blue balls, but if they're not going to be the same, you want it to equalize the race just to make it exciting. Nothing like kicking a man while he's down.
Rubbing some salt in the wound.
Now, just because Retro's behind doesn't mean that the race is over. You can already see the consequence to PH's fairy drop that might come back in Turtle Rock. So this isn't just an Aga Tower split. This is Turtle Rock that he just did, and this might be a debt that he pays later.
Yeah, there aren't a whole lot of splits like that where something that you do in that split has consequences in a much later split. But the splits do tend to like run together.
It's much more common for something in the overworld to affect what happens in the dungeon that follows.
So yeah, once you pick up Kiki, you cannot get hit or Kiki runs away, which would be really bad for PH because he'd have to farm a couple more rupees. But he didn't get hit, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, retrommel can get hit. He'll be fine. But getting hit still sucks.
Yeah, it really does.
You had to go back and fetch Kiki, and you had to go through the text boxes again.
It's very slow. Very frustrating.
Yeah, Palace of Darkness is a dungeon that you do like 3 laps of, which can be a little bit confusing.
Oh yeah, it's so easy to forget which time through this specific room that PH is in that you're on. Oh.
What happened there? Excuse me.
So what happens is that beam, when you're going up, has a really wonky hitbox, and sometimes it just misses the berry.
That was so unfair.
Yes. So a lot of runners will not even beam up at that berry, and will try to go to the side and slash, or, try to squeak by if they can. Yeah, so.
I see. Well, it doesn't look like PH lost a whole lot. He lost some time, but only half a heart. We're about to come up on a rail clip called Hammer Jump. It requires you to be on a pixel. When you place the bomb, then you have to move yourself to another certain pixel. It's pretty easy to save time over not doing it.
But it's also nerve-wracking because the bridge is falling while you're trying to get on these certain pixels. So you're on a severe time limit. It's one of the most nerve-wracking things to do if you're on pace.
Yeah, you'll see people pulling up their menus, checking for visual cues. You can menu a lot of times before it loses time over not doing it, but you're never not doing it. You're usually running against a good run that does it on just a few buffers. But in a race, you don't know. Your opponent might miss altogether. They might have a few buffers like you do. Let's see what happens to Retro as he approaches Hammer Jump.
Yeah, I think it's something like 30 plus menu buffers before you start to lose time over just going to the basement to get the key.
Retro going for some sword buffers, which is bold. So that saves a little time because
fancy.
you're not spending time in the menu, which means that the bomb's timer is going down. So you're not actually losing any time, but you are losing not time in your speedrun time, but you're losing the time you have to reposition yourself, making it harder. You'll see the really, really good runners not menu at all, except for the two menus that you have to do. Menuing to bombs and then menuing to mirror.
Yeah, you'll also see that Retro's going to save just a smidge more time, make up a little bit more time, because they only have to pick up one of these heart pots, where PH had to pick up 2. Not a huge deal, but I mean, it's still time. Also, mimics are some of the worst enemies in this game. You cannot prove me otherwise. Don't even argue with me.
Mimics suck because if they hurt you, it's always their fault. You can't blame RNG. But also, it's hard enough that you will mess up sometimes. It's the perfect balance of self-loathing and difficulty.
Oh no, Turtle Party is going just a little bit off the rails here for PH. They didn't get hit, which is good. Because we want full health going into Helmasaur King here. And Retro got beautiful Turtle Party.
Yeah, he's getting a little bit of time on PH here.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, cleaner hammer jump, cleaner turtle party. Just a few things here and there, and you can see that the time difference from falling to Moldorm is closing. PH choosing to hold his sword out.
He's tried to do the spin speed a couple of times. You can tell because they purposely released the spin, but I don't know. Personally, I find getting this spin speed difficult. Because of the way you're holding, or I'm holding the controller. Wow.
Wow, sync.
Yes.
Look at this.
Look at that.
So, you wouldn't even know that Retro fell to Moldorm and got more blue balls. It's so easy for that time to slip away in the dark world.
Just so chat knows, we missed the blue ball counts on PH's side, but Retro got 4.
It looked like
5.
PH
It was
didn't
5,
get
wasn't it?
that many. Oh, gosh. I'm so bad at this.
I totally meant to check, and I just...
I made the mistake of
My
looking at
brain.
Discord, because I'm like,
Yes.
oh, this is a boring fight I'm not going to watch. I'm on commentary. I'm derelict of duty, or whatever you call it.
Yep. No math. No math on stream. And that includes counting. You'll see people in chat talking about catches, and I've heard both ways, where if you catch it so the crystal is closer to Link's head, you save a few frames of the crystal rising up, versus like what PH did, where it was a little bit lower, or he was a little bit lower, so the crystal had to rise up a little bit more. I'm still not positive if it makes a big difference.
It's not so much that it makes a big difference, it's that it's very visually apparent whether your catch is good or not, and it's an easy thing to make fun of. Because you spend so much time in that cutscene watching Link swim in the text.
It's always fun to see Link's butt in the text, though, just randomly.
Yeah, and there's nothing else to talk about. It's like, oh no, this person's not mashing hard enough. You can't see that. You can't see who's mashing faster, but you can see who had a better catch.
Both of them did the hammer bridge beautifully. No problems at all.
Yeah, that's an item dash, so it's kind of like spin speed, except you're hitting 2 buttons at the same time instead of sliding one button to the other. And if you dash while holding an item at the same time, you sort of carry that item into the dash and get to use it throughout the whole dash.
It doesn't work on every item though, does it?
Yeah. It depends on the item. Like a hook dash won't do that. You're not gonna dash with your hook shot out the whole time. But the hook dash will give you spin speed, which is kind of cool.
If you have a staircase nearby.
Yeah. You'll have the spin speed stay armed, but you won't actually get the speed until you have gone on the stair. Because really what's happening there is you are getting, and this is important, this is spin speed that gets you around this red guard here. Because if you don't, then the red guard is just straight up faster than you, and you're going to have a hard time.
But yeah, you'll see that they release that spin, and then they touch those stairs, and then they got the super speed. For some reason, touching those stairs freaks the game out a little bit. I don't know.
It's the game just thinks you dashed onto the stairs, and therefore you must be still dashing when you exit the stairs. Unless you, like, exit diagonally. If you exit the stairs a certain way, the game will reset you to stair walking speed. Actually, just normal walking speed. But we take advantage of that. That's one of those 1.0 exclusive glitches that we like to have. Sorry, I didn't mean diagonally. I meant like, what do you call it? Like, orthogonally to the stair?
That's a big word, Melmo. That's a big word.
Did retrommel just gain time on PH?
Yes. I don't know exactly how.
I'm gonna guess it's just better dashing, because there's a lot of dashing in this split.
There is. There's also the Three Musketeers, depending on what strats they use there. But yeah, so we're doing this dungeon now because it gets us our mitts, which in turn will get us our tempered sword, which will be our last sword upgrade for this game.
This dungeon also gets us our flute active, and you use your flute to get to pretty much every dungeon after Skullwoods. Skullwoods is prescribed as the third dungeon in the game, but if you actually go in here with the Master Sword, it becomes a much harder dungeon than it would be with the Tempered.
Oh yeah, I am one of those people who, growing up when I was playing this, I always did them in the intended dungeon order, basically. And Swamp Palace was... Yeah, Swamp Palace is bad.
Yeah, we'll come up on Swamp later. Argus is just bad with Master Sword. You have to do spins or some very difficult poke dashes, which you definitely weren't doing as a kid, I think, because I don't think you can on the US version.
No. I could have swore Retro got hit in Hellway, but the hearts do not show it.
Oh, okay. Well, I saw PH get hit. Maybe that's what you're thinking.
PH got hit, maybe. I don't know. But neither one of them had a stellar Hellway. They both ended up losing time.
Oh, no. Okay, so PH was going for an optimal attic bomb, where you slash the cricket upward because you get a certain RNG so that you can place your bomb earlier. But on his way out, he got bulldozed by a cricket and died.
Those crickets are mean.
They do 2 hearts of damage, and he got mobbed by crickets after, because once you are thrown off your movement, it's hard to recover. Thankfully, he already bombed the attic, so he doesn't have to go all the way back to that room, but he does have to go through Hellway again and hit the switch to progress. This is a pretty hefty time loss on his part. But it's not the only place where your run can die, which sounds morose, but it does mean that the race is still on.
Oh yeah, like we said at the beginning. Oh, PH, please. The run isn't over until somebody has crossed the line.
Okay.
This is scary.
Oh
no.
He got cornered. He's having a rough time here. And it's hard because you don't have your full health when you die. You spawn in with 5 hearts, which is... you take 3 hits and you're dead from most of the enemies in this dungeon.
Yeah. Let's just hope that he keeps the deaths to the dungeon portion and not the boss fight. Because the boss fight is a literal... It's a mess.
Yeah, I was gonna make some joke about how, like, we call it blind because you can do it with your eyes closed, but it's easy to just, like, slip up. You can see Retro actually got a spin by accident because he let go of B too early, and that's all it takes to go off script. But he was able to keep it going long enough to not lose the fight too much, and he only took a couple hearts. One heart?
Yeah, it was a 1 heart. It was a pretty clean fight, even with the little oopsie.
Now, PH has 3 hearts.
Yes.
And he can do the script and be safe, but also, if he goes off script, he's in a lot of danger. We might see him pick up some pots on the way to Blind's Maiden. If he's watching the restream, he knows he's really behind. And he might just be playing for, I just need to finish the game because you never know what's going to happen later in the run, and also I don't want to forfeit this early.
Oh, he's skipping the pots. All right. Okay.
So he gets his mitts here.
Meanwhile, Retro is picking up one of those 300 rupee chests that you were talking about earlier.
Yeah, there's 2 of them in the split. You'll see the second one after we get the tempered sword. It's very convenient that both of these are located near a dungeon. The other 300 rupee chests are really out of the way.
Where are they even? I don't even remember.
There is one in Back of Escape, there's one in Hype Cave, and there's one in Mini Moldorm Cave.
Yeah. Ugh. I think the closest one would probably be Hype Cave.
Alright,
but thankfully we don't need to worry about it, so...
PH and Blind, he looks like he's having a really good script. And as long as he can get through here without getting hit twice, he is home free. Very good blind fight for him. Especially after getting bullied in the dungeon. It's hard to keep your head and not be scared going into this.
And Blind looks... Oh, go ahead.
Yeah,
Mama.
Blind is almost easier when you're not thinking about it.
Yeah, so Blind is one of those fights that is incredibly difficult until you learn it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, like, it's like the biggest gap between casual play and speedrun play in terms of difficulty. There are some where it's like easy and casual and hard in the speedrun because you're optimizing. Like Aga 2 is like, you never worried about Aga 2 as a kid, right? It's just like, oh, there's 3 of them now. It's not that big a deal. In the speedrun, it's so hard to optimize and not get a million cycles. So like Aga 2 and Lambo 2, I would say, are the opposite side of that spectrum. But Blind is, when you're playing it casually, it's a total panic fest. You're probably quaffing potions the whole time. It's a bullet hell.
Or you found one of the invulnerability items.
Yeah,
like
you go.
The
you
cape or
leave.
Something.
You leave with your mitts and you get your cape.
Yep. But yeah, thanks to somebody sometime in the past figuring out how to do that blind fight consistently, the runners from then on out have been blessed.
So Retro got a little bit of bad mummy movement in this room. The mummy went up, and you have some options when that happens. You can slash down, or you can go around and pull, which is slow. I think he just chose to take the damage because he knew it would be faster to do that than to try and deal with the mummy.
Sometimes, depending on, if it's maybe a little bit slower, or if you can wiggle the statue fast enough, because you actually push the statue faster when you're wiggling, you can beat that mummy. But yeah, more often than not, you're going to get hit.
One thing that's hard to beat is this... Sorry. One thing that's hard to beat is that Moldorm. After you bomb jump, it's timed almost perfectly to charge at you, and it's hard to avoid those. Retro purposely avoided that fairy. You'd think, oh, doesn't he want his health pack that he lost? If you get your health back, you get beams, and beams reduce your damage if they override your sword damage, and that is one of the worst places to have beams is in the back of Skullwoods. You are actually safer coming in with 5 hearts than coming in with 8 or 9, however many you have in here.
Yeah, there's a couple of rooms that you definitely do not want beams in. One of them is the actual boss fight, Moth, and one of them is the key room, the mummy key room.
Yeah, you'll see Retro dash up and hit the mummy into the spike, and the mummy will go down left, down right a little bit, and take spike damage. If you had beams, the mummy is not going down left or right. I can't do that. Down right. The mummy is going straight right and doesn't hit the spike, and then you're miserable. All right, here is PH's mummy statue room. He gets really good mummy patterns and drops. It's nice to have. Extra arrows. They're getting really good arrow luck in this run.
They really are, and PH had a great fight there. Only 3 of the spikes moved, which is pretty speedy. You can do it with 0 of the spikes moving, but that requires really good like conveyor RNG and stuff like that.
Yeah, you need the moth to go not sideways. If the moth goes sideways, it's really hard to get 0 spikes. But 1 spike is perfectly fine. And a skilled runner can get 1 spike on most RNGs.
And the reason, for those of you who may not know, if you hit Moth into the spikes actually override your sword damage. So, and it's programmed to not take any damage from spikes. And if you remember your casual playthrough of this, the longer that fight goes on, the more insane and scary it gets.
Okay, so I don't know whose audio we have, but if you have retrommels audio, you may have heard the flute go off, and that is not an accident. That is resetting a variable that'll make sure his fire rod works properly in the front of Ice Palace, and he can hit the freeze ore a little bit earlier. It's one of those little free time saves that is nearly invisible. PH doesn't get the spike kill on the mummy, but recovers pretty gracefully from it.
You'll also see that Retro is combining a little bit of errands here. They're going to pick up the Quake medallion from our friendly neighborhood catfish, and then immediately mirror and get the flippers. And then from there, we're going to use the whirlpool that's right here to go to Ice Palace. Which means that this whole overworld, we're trying not to take damage in. Going into Ice Palace without beams is a slow thing. We really want beams for that second room in Ice Palace.
So PH had a bit of a panicked moth fight, but he gets out not in Oko, and that's good enough. He also has a nice crystal catch. So admire that tiny gap between his head and the crystals.
Everybody watch Zora's eyes. While he's spitting out the flippers, they go wibbly wobbly, and it's hilarious.
Wibbly
and I
wobbly.
did not notice until like a few months ago, and I've got to tell everybody.
I didn't notice until you started telling everybody.
Also, that flute that hopefully PH just did, I don't have audio at all because it bleeds through my headphones.
He did.
Is one of the easiest things to forget.
Yeah, and you don't notice until you walk into ice and fire your fire rod and the freezer doesn't die because your splash damage is like going into the next room for some reason. Worry not, though, we will be taking full advantage of that later on in Misery Mire. We will be purposely getting the fire rod splash damage to go into the next room to hit a crystal switch. Wow.
And it's so fun to do.
PH just got a little RNG read on that Octorock and avoided a hit there.
Ice Palace is one of those splits that it either goes really well or everything goes horribly wrong. That's just the way it is. There's a couple of things in this split that, yeah. Anyway,
That's true for Cold Stare too, the boss.
it's really true. Yeah.
You either kill it before it even splits up, or you are flailing for your life.
Panic
Ooh.
and Flail is one of my favorite strats.
That was a very exciting conveyor room for retrommel. What just happened?
Oh, so when you fall, you don't have to reset the room. You just wait a second, and then you can do your bomb setup for this bomb jump the regular way.
Yeah, I'm guessing Retro just like knows how to do it one way and relies on the room's entry for his timing. So he'll re-enter the room to reset.
Which is fine. It's just a little bit slower. But they got it, so...
Ooh.
Oh. Eep, eep.
Wow. Oh. Whirlpools are impossible. They're just like pots. Oh no!
That whirlpool. Oh no!
Oh, they're impossible to hit except when you don't want to hit them. And they are sucking you in. Whirlpool fashion.
I'm telling you, this split is either impossible and everything goes wrong, or it's not bad.
Oh, we had both runners going back and forth through doors in this split.
No, not the free bomb drop.
He is 4, he's fine.
Yeah, but free bombs.
You're just gonna dump them in GT later anyway. Hey, Retro had a really good fight there. That is the single poke dash method.
They did get stuck on the ice cap, which threw them off a little bit, but...
Yeah, that's kind of why I was impressed, because the single poke dash is really hard to get when any part of your normal movement gets thrown off. So anybody who can have something like getting hit by ice happen and still get the single poke dash is impressive to me.
Anyone who can get the single poke dash consistently is impressive to me. It's something that I still struggle with.
Yeah, it's very sensitive.
I still want to make a petition to name that conveyor room Electric Avenue.
PH had a textbook IPBJ, Ice Palace Bomb Jump.
And meanwhile, Retro are they gonna go? Oh, it says Ether on their splits. So we're gonna take this time and the fact that we're gonna go to Swamp, which is technically the second dungeon in the Dark World. We're gonna take this time to go up Death Mountain and get our Ether Medallion, because if we lose a few hearts here, it's a lot more forgiving than the Mire split.
Mire, yeah, you want to have beams in Mire when you enter. But in Swamp, you just never expect to have your full health. And it doesn't really matter if you do or don't.
Yeah, there's nothing like slowing you down if you go in without full hearts into Swamp.
Alright, nice cold stare from PH. I love to see 2 poke dash fights go well.
He did almost get hit with that one ice chunk.
But he didn't.
But he didn't.
And that's the important thing.
Meanwhile, Retro was going into Swamp with only 1 heart down. Which means they had a pretty darn good Death Mountain, which I'm jealous of every time, because Death Mountain is just mean.
And you have to do Death Mountain 3 times in the run.
And it doesn't get any easier as the run goes on. It's always a pain in the butt. So yeah, because Swamp is intended as an earlier dungeon, you don't take a lot of damage here. But there's a lot of things that can do damage. I just said that wrong. The things in here don't hurt as much, but you can still take a lot of damage. There we go.
Yeah, you take the damage one at a time. Alright, PH also getting bullied by boulders, and now it's impossible to get spin speed because you're worried about boulders. And this is why you do this before Swamp and not Mire, because if you do it for Mire, you have 2 hearts missing when you enter, and you don't have beams. And Mire ends with the boss fight where you are damage boosting multiple times. You do want to go in there with as much HP as possible.
Yes, for sure. Retro Swamp is actually looking really, really nice right now. Swamp is a hard split. Like, yeah, it's so much harder than it looks. Oh, PH is getting Ice Rod here as well.
Ooh, we have ourselves a long swamp. It's gonna look like PH is catching up, or PH is falling even further behind, but it's just a temporary time loss, because Retro will have to do this probably after Mire.
Yeah, that's where most people will do their Ice Rod shopping. But as you can see, he took a hit from a crab, which did, what, 2 hearts?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crabs. And the question is, do you want to take that hit before Swamp or before Turtle Rock? And with PH not having a fairy in Turtle Rock, Swamp is the better option.
It really is. So, I don't know if this is like their normal place to be getting Ice Rod. But if it isn't, and this was just a heads up play by them, that's incredibly smart.
I would be surprised if anybody changes their shopping on the fly in the race, because that is a recipe for forgetting an item. Like getting all the way to TR without Ice Rod. Ice Rod is just done whenever you want. Like, you can do it in Thieves Town if you want, but if you have the Ice Rod in your menu, it can make the menuing harder. So some people will put it off to the very end.
Yeah, when I was a newer runner, and I did, powder and newer runner. I still get powder sometimes. I used to do all my shopping in the Thieves Town split. So I would go, you could get ether, Ice Rod, and get powder, and then get the free health refill if you needed it. That's the great thing about doing the errands. A lot of them you can do just whenever. And Ice Rod and ether are 2 of those.
Yeah, the flute is really what allows that to just be done and not have to worry about when it's most efficient to route. The time saves between them are measured in frames, not seconds.
Yeah, the big time saves and stuff with getting Ice Rod, those bugs are just bullying Retro there.
Yeah, you can do like a little up left to avoid that RNG, but you could also just not do that and hope you don't get the bad RNG. And Retro will be fine. Argus does 2 hearts of damage, but if you're not going for 0 cycle, you're probably not taking damage on Argus anyway.
Yeah, Yoho just pointed out, Retro was going for the refill pots, the bomb, and the arrows, and he got an arrow drop when he killed that Bari. So he is at 29 arrows, which is like 8 more than what you really need to be at this spot. I believe the arrow route says you want to be at 21 when
This
you come to
run
the
was
swamp.
brought to you by arrows.
And fortuitous drops.
I think PH had an electrified Bari and was having trouble hitting the switch.
I'm glad they didn't forget to hit the switch.
Yes, we have seen that before. Not necessarily in this one yet, because there's only been a few races, but I think every now and then I'll see somebody walk all the way here without getting the heart, or without hitting the switch. So Retro went for like the safe normal Argus, not the very difficult strat that saves 6 seconds.
And Swamp has the longest crystal cutscene. This maiden just talks for like years. I swear. You're just sitting there mashing buttons, wondering when it's gonna be over.
So you were saying that Retro had a good swamp. Retro had a gold swamp.
I knew it was good.
It was.
I called it.
It's a good swamp. You know what? That's a good sign of a good swamp is you're not noticing anything that's happening. You're just going through the dungeon. A bad swamp will always remind you that you're in swamp. Like, oh, I got hit. I'm in swamp. I hate swamp. A good swamp, you just go through and you don't think about the fact that you're in swamp.
Yeah, you're kind of just on autopilot. You're not really paying attention. Mire is after Mire 2. This room that Retro is going into. That's Mire's kind of like that. You just go into like autopilot mode and you just do the dungeon until you get down to Spooky. At least for me.
Yeah.
It's one of the more consistent splits once you learn the movement. And
There's not a lot of RNG in Mire. It's just there's the bomb slug, but you know that's rarely gonna hurt you. But the thing with Mire is when things do go wrong, a lot of the enemies in here do 4 hearts of damage, including the boss. So you go from being fine to being dead very quickly. It's not like
Very
Swamp where you
quickly.
get chipped away slowly. Mire sneaks up on you. You go from that flow state to flowing down the drain.
Alright, so PH isn't going for the 1 cycle either. Which isn't surprising. It's a very difficult strat. Or the 0. Did I say 0 cycle?
You did know.
Yeah,
That's what counts.
I don't know.
We know what you meant.
Yeah, he's not going for that. It's hard.
That's hard.
It's hard. Meanwhile, Retro's going to pick up the big key and then go get his red cane, which is necessary, obviously, in this run, but it's not the fun item that it is in glitched modes.
Yeah, in the glitch speedruns, the cane is one of the first things you get because it's so strong. But in NMG, you use it to hold down a switch in the back of Mire so you can progress, and then you use it to ride on platforms in Turtle Rock, and that's it.
No, you use it to kill whiz ropes too.
Oh, of course. Okay, that's actually fun. The whiz rope kills with the cane are very satisfying.
Very satisfying. And that's so easy to learn. So much fun.
When I was a kid, I didn't know that the cane did damage to enemies. Because you get it so late, and it makes you hit a switch with it, and it's like, oh, okay, I realize that it's giving me this because I need it for Turtle Rock, and then you just put it away and never use it again. Little did I know how fun this item would be. So Retro is going to hit that switch, which you'd think is easy. It's just press Y. No, he's going to press A then Y because he needs to preserve a variable that makes spooky action work. And spooky action is that thing where the fire rod splash damage gets offset. So if he did it right, he will be able to use his fire rod in a certain way in the next couple rooms, hit an enemy, and then have the splash damage from the fire rod hit the switch that's above him that you can't even see.
And on that first screen, you can tell it works because the screen freezes a little bit. Yeah, PH got really close to that bird, by the way. Really scary.
Yeah, PH did not toss the bird. PH brought the bird in with him.
Oh, I didn't see that. I was watching Retro do spooky.
Yeah, he carried the bird into Mire. He got an up slash and missed the cycle, but you don't... When you miss the cycle, it doesn't really cost that much. Because you usually have to spend a little extra time hitting those popos anyway. Unless you're doing the very fast strat that hits the popo early.
Nice Viddy fight. We got a 0 cycle Viddy on Retro's side. That's where he doesn't do any lightning. And he did that by hitting the slime and using his iframes to release spins in those little eyeballs. Otherwise, if you tried... Yeah, if those eyeballs touch you, it does 4 hearts of damage each time, and like you said, you die really quickly.
Yeah, and you can see that he ended the fight on 4 hearts, showing how fragile it is. It looks like, oh, that's easy, you just do what he did, but all it takes is a little slip up, and you hit an eye instead of the slime, and you're dead.
Alright, so Retro just has done Turtle Rock, GT, and Ganon left. So we're on the downward slide of this run. But it's really an upward slide because these two splits are not easy in the slightest. They definitely saved the hardest stuff for last. Doesn't mean it's not fun to do sometimes. But yeah, they're definitely hard splits. So our last climb of Death Mountain here, we still have to worry about boulders and squirrels. And we really don't want to lose health in this split. Because like Melmo mentioned earlier, we're going to be taking some intentional damage in this dungeon. Now, Retro does still have his fairy coming, but when it's coming, we don't quite know. There's a couple of enemies that will kill that can drop it. And yeah. It's kind of a crapshoot on when it'll actually show up.
Yeah, if I were PH, I'd be mirroring out of Roller Room just to save the hearts that you would normally take intentionally there.
For sure. Yeah, that's a very safe strat. It only loses a few seconds, but dying loses you minutes, depending on where you die in here.
Yeah, and he's behind. I don't know if he watches, but he's behind enough that 4-second time save isn't going to bring it back for him. He needs to just finish his run without any further disasters and have Retro take a disaster.
Not that we want anybody to have any more disasters.
No.
Just putting that out there. No commentator's curse.
Yeah. But like if you're thinking about this as a race rather than just 2 people having speedruns together, which is kind of how we do it, honestly, then that's might be how you're thinking. Oh no, so okay. No. So PH just demonstrated how quickly Mire can go down the drain. He's not dead, but he went from enough hearts to do the fight to not enough hearts to do the fight. And now he has to do a very dangerous version of the fight where he's relying on the RNG of that lightning to not hit him. Good. No! Oh my goodness!
Oh my word.
I cannot believe that didn't hit him.
I'm making so many speedrunner noises over here.
Speedrunner noises.
Oh, jeez.
He was so shocked. he missed the crystal. He's also typing in chat, which I would like to point out is like 180 degrees away from him, so he has to turn his entire body away from the screen to do that. Retro Bell is having quite the chomps.
I said no more disasters.
No, dude.
Oh, jeez. And he got his fairy already.
So, okay, so this is why you just keep playing when you're in a race and something bad happens, because you don't know what's going to happen in the future. Now, Retro's not dead yet. Now, here's what I would do if I was Retro, because he doesn't have a good way to get his health back. I would go to Mirror Shield. Not get the Mirror Shield, but I would just go there and take a nice little Death Warp and get some hearts back.
It's not a bad option. Oh no!
Normally you take a purposeful hit there to get your bunny beam off, and he cannot do that because he'll die.
He can't even do a fire rod shot on this guy because he has no magic. Oh,
I can't believe that he's not getting hit. Okay, he got hit. Oh, he got stuck on the skull. So he's actually still alive in terms of the race. He's still ahead of PH by a significant amount. But not as much as he was before.
Oh, did he get that weird thing where you can't swing your sword after a certain amount of time after you dash? And that's why he couldn't hit the switch?
Oh, I see. Dash, sword, hold off. Yeah, it's like, what is it, 4 frames where you can't slash your sword after you dash through an enemy. He also got stuck on the switch. I could see him trying to get off the switch and failing. Because the switches have weird collision.
What? Things in this game have weird hitboxes? No.
No way.
No way. This game is perfect, Malmo.
Yeah, they lovingly sculpt the pixels of the hitbox to match the visuals of the sprite.
That's why we can throw a rock on the rocks in Catfish and still have it work. Because, you know, hitboxes.
Yeah. Honestly, if I was Retro, I would have like tried to kill the Pokey again and forgotten that I already got the key.
I probably would have killed it to try to get a wraparound fairy.
Ooh, that might be worth it, actually. Speaking of wraparound fairies, PH has entered Turtle Rock, missing 2 hearts. He will take another heart here on purpose.
And they have no fairy.
No fairy. So PH lost his fairy in Aga Tower, the typical place. He didn't have beams, and he didn't know the dash strat to kill the enemies so that they don't drop a fairy. Retro died in Turtle Rock, so he already got his fairy and then had a disaster in Chain Chomps afterward.
Yeah, he had a disaster in Chain Chomps and then met his untimely demise in Poke's 1. We have such great names for some of our rooms.
Yeah.
PH just did Poke 0.
Yes. Poke's 1. The second room with the Poke in it.
Yep.
It's great. It's like, you know, it's like in, I guess it's like in the game or like in the code, everything is numbered starting with 0 instead of 1.
PH is bound and determined to give us all heart attacks.
Look, PH did not go down to 1 heart in Chomps, and that's good enough for me.
I mean, Retro's... Yeah. And we have Laser Skip coming up, and he's on 5 hearts, which would leave him with just 1 heart.
Assuming he doesn't fall.
Assuming he doesn't fall. I personally probably would have taken the safety door down there, being it's a race, and it's the very back of Turtle Rock.
Oh, but see, you would have lost time to retrommel, who didn't take safety door and didn't need it.
But you see...
Yet.
I would have died on Trinex, probably. Because the last run that made it to Trinex, I had almost full health and I died. So, in a race setting, I think if I was only on 5 or 6 hearts, I probably would have taken it.
Retro will be fine. He's getting a really nice backdoor strat, gets 4 hits in, gets good RNG from the ice head, so he's able to dash down into it.
Oh.
And eats the head. Okay. Just don't get hit again. You'll be fine. Don't get hit by the head.
I want to look away, but I can't.
Oh my god!
Oh my gosh.
Speedrunner noises. I can't believe he played it like that. I know it worked out, but... Oh my goodness. He played it like he was invincible.
Yes.
Like, I don't care what happens to me. I'm just gonna do it normally and hope for the best. Rely on my skills. Oh, he's got PH got a little bit stuck on that switch too.
Yeah.
He wasn't surrounded by 4 heart damaging skulls, but
no.
still annoying when it happens.
Yes. It's okay. We just have GT left, right? Nothing bad happens in GT? Please? Alright, so quick... Oh no. I was gonna say quick little run over to Ganon's tower for Retro. PH is on Oko to those lasers. Okay, makes it through. We're fine.
PH knows that he can get a heart before Trinix and not be an Oko. And I think for most people, just not being an Oko is good enough for most boss fights. Okay.
Jiminy Crickets.
I don't like the way he did that, but it worked, so I'm not going to criticize it.
Yeah. Wow.
Ooh! Okay, so PH fired the fire rod sideways by accident because there's like a weird delay between when you turn and when the direction your fire rod goes turns. And he recovered very well by recognizing that and firing down. And
he did have a second wayward shot, but...
Yeah, that was from being too close to the head. So when you fire your rods, the actual rod doesn't come out of your nose. It comes out of the tip of your rod. Would you imagine that? So you can't be too close to the enemy when you do it, because you'll just fire the rod over him instead of at him.
Okay, I completely missed the first part of the basement for Retro. Other than I saw them having a little bit of trouble with one of the switches.
Retro skipped the torch keys, so he'll be getting probably the key, the last key.
The chest key?
The chest key.
Okay, okay.
Otherwise, you know, you saw some hiccups with torches, but he hasn't taken any damage, and things seem to be generally going okay.
They have plenty of arrows to do ice armos here.
Also, credits to PH for not needing the fairy in TR.
Yeah,
he was
for
fine.
Sure.
What did he do? Like, did he exit with the damage boost in roller room?
I don't know. I didn't look.
I didn't look either.
I think
Retro
Retro was having
his
his
Retro.
Yeah. I hate to say it, but I wasn't watching.
Whatever he was doing, it worked. Alright, good Poke's 1 for Retro.
Mimics.
Oh, Mimics.
It's okay.
I'm still traumatized.
Yes,
1.
It's been a long run.
Good Poke's 1 for Retro is very much a lie. I'm sorry. That was the most false thing I could have said. It was a very good Mimics 1, though.
It was a good Mimics 2 as well. They did take damage on the spikes in that spike pit, but that spike pit is impossible. I swear.
That spike pit requires clean movement, and where are you going to find that in a race? clean movement is for other people. Wow, he gets some really aggressive RNG in Gauntlet 1. You're supposed to fire at the Stalfos and prioritize them because they run away from you, but in this RNG, he got punished for doing that because the Zazak charged at him directly, and he had to deal with the Zazak instead.
He had great RNG in Gauntlet 2, though.
Yes, dash down RNG is so satisfying when you get it. But he is on 4 hearts, 3 hearts, going out of Gauntlet 5.
It should be okay.
Should be okay.
We're fine. Deep breaths.
That was the hard part. Very good Lammo too.
Very, very good. Didn't take any damage from the fireballs, which are really hard or really easy to forget about while you're trying to hit the worms.
I am so happy that Retro got a heart there.
Yes.
Because that takes him out of one-hit KO in this room and in the laser room following Torches 1. Also, it looked like PH had a really good basement.
Yeah, they also didn't take any damage. They had a really clean Ice Armos. So yeah, really good basement from PH. Also nice
PH?
mimics.
Yeah, good mimics. Let's see how his spike pit goes. Already not great. That's okay. He will probably take a hit out of here.
I tell you, nerves.
Yeah, race nerves, just nerves in general. Ooh, PH got a good Ganon Ball Z.
I don't understand how people can read the RNG in that room. I haven't figured it out yet. I just walked my way through it the whole time.
I think there's only 2 RNGs to read in the first half.
Well, Retro had a good Moldorm.
Yeah, it's still on 5 hearts, so, you know, heart neutral coming out of Gauntlet 5.
Gauntlet is impossible. Everything is impossible in this game.
PH is having a party. Still has more health than Retro did, though.
Okay, we have Geometry Wizard here. And you know how we all love math on stream.
These patterns look alright. Oh, but the blue ball ruins it.
How always ruins it.
Because the blue ball hits you usually, and it's hard to recover from that.
These patterns have been... Most of them have been pretty bad, too. Then he gets a couple of free ones like this. There we go. He's down. But his health is really sketchy. I'm thinking it's like one-hit KO for almost everything in this fight. I think the bats that Ganon spits out on phase 4 are the ones that only do a little... Are the ones that do the smaller amount of damage.
Yeah, they do too. Oh, PH. Alright. We're fine.
Oh no, did he take a laser to the face?
Yeah, he sure did. That's
Oof.
okay, because he's not on 4 hearts when he went in there. He was on like 8.
Yes. We get a nice 1-in-1 from Retro. To be expected. PH, please.
Sounds like 3 heart Ganons is just what we're getting today. Oh, Retro misses Torch Glitch. You know what? That's fine.
It's
We
fine.
just finish the run.
Yes.
Torch glitch is the least of your concerns at this point.
Yes.
It's boring, but it's not
And
going to
it's
lose you
slow.
the race.
Yeah. Just take a deep breath, finish out the run. You've got this.
Retro seems to have practiced missing torch glitch too, which is crucial. Because it will happen to you, no matter how good you are. And practicing the failure states is a very important part of racing.
Oh yeah, knowing your backups is almost as important as knowing your original strats. You know?
That looked like a much better Aga fight for PH.
Yeah, it did seem a lot quicker.
So as long as Retro survives, doesn't fall, doesn't die, doesn't run out of magic, he will be okay. I think he can probably switch to Fire Rod pretty soon. It looks like he's lost his rhythm that he had earlier on. Probably just fatigue. When you're in phase 4 for this long, it's easy to just lose your rhythm.
It's also really hard when he does something like that, where you have to light the right torch, but he's on the left side of the screen. Because you can't light the torch and have your sword out at the same time.
Yeah, you can with Fire Rod, though. And he was on those last hit. I didn't realize this. So, he pulls it through for first place in this race with a 1:30.07.
So, GG's to Retro. We're just gonna wait for PH to finish up. They're already on phase 3.
Oh, PH also misses Torch Glitch.
Yes.
Aw, that's rough. Looks like he is going to kind of reset the fight to get into that rhythm. You can get doubles if you get the rhythm right.
And it looks like he maybe hasn't practiced it as much.
No, you want to light the first torch when Ganon is firing the bats from the top. Otherwise you will be, not giving yourself enough time to spin Ganon as he warps to the top when you light the bottom torch. If you light the torch when he's at the top, then Ganon will be at the bottom waiting for you when you light the second torch.
He tried, but that torch hitbox. Yeah, this fight, when you miss Torch Glitch and you're not used to it, is so tough. Mentally. Like, it's not a hard fight. It just, like you said, it just takes so long.
Yeah, it takes long and most people aren't practicing it.
He's got to be getting pretty close, right?
Yeah. It's only 12 hits. And, he keeps getting really close to those fires. Making me nervous. Alright. This is actually getting really sketchy on the magic count. But he gets it.
Phew.
very last sliver of magic. I think he maybe had one more double torchlight left in him. GG's to PH.
Yes, GG's for finishing that out.
And we are joined by retrommel. GG.
Hey, thank you.
Yeah, GG, Retro.
Oh, that end was rough.
End was rough, but you did Gold Swamp, and
Yeah.
we noticed how well you were playing in there. You've gained a lot of time back in the early Dark World.
Yeah. I was on, was basically on PB pace after Meyer, and then screwed it up in TR.
Look, chomps it's a hard room. Let's just put that out there.
Dude blocked me.
Yeah, and it's easy for those difficulties to confound themselves. You find yourself in a situation where you're on one heart and you know you're not getting another fairy. Did you have a plan to take an intentional death at some point after a big key? Because we were contemplating maybe you go to Mirror Shield and you just die there.
Oh, no.
You just go for it.
Yeah.
I admire that.
Yeah.
And PH has joined us as well.
Hello. GG,
Hello.
GG, man.
Oh, that was fun.
Yeah?
For missions of fun.
If it makes you feel better, both of you missed Torch Glitch. Both of you had disasters here and there.
I don't know if it makes me feel better.
It's kind of how it just goes in these, though. You know, the race is an opportunity to put yourself through the paces in situations where you would normally reset, and that's important too. It gives you an experience of the game that you wouldn't normally get speedrunning by yourself.
Yeah, I would agree that I would probably have reset that. Maybe not after the first Death and Thieves, but probably after the second.
I was ready to reset like a minute behind in Light World.
Ugh. So you had like a really good early Dark World then if you were on PB pace at Meyer.
Yeah, right after Meyer, I golded Swamp and then just saved a ton of time.
Oh, sick. I had a really good Light World up until... so I will add, I predicted that bonk. I actually called it out earlier today that I was going to bonk there in Return Cave. And lo and behold.
Ouch.
And it all started to unravel there. I was like 30 seconds ahead coming out of Hera. And actually more, I think. No, like 30 seconds ahead, but with a bunch of time saved because I had a really bad CT overworld in my PvP. And then I bonked and I think it just kind of got in my head.
How many blue balls did you have?
2.
2.
You?
Nice. I had 5.
Oh, jeez. Well, yeah. So the first time I peeked into ZSR, I did see that I was entering because the stream was a little behind and my Helma was an adventure, and I saw that I was entering Helma ahead of you, and I was like, something probably either went really wrong for him in Light World or he got like really screwed on blue balls or both.
Yeah, I don't know. It was just losing so much time, split after split, but
yeah,
got it together, I guess.
Yeah, dude. I mean, these are so. First off, Twin Melmo, thank you so much for the comms.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, plenty of interesting moments.
Yeah, lots of things to talk about.
You don't say.
we thrive off of those things. We don't want to talk about pumping an optimal movement for the entire run. We want to talk about how hard Meyer is and how easy it is to take 4 hearts of damage and go into panic mode, and how cool it is when you pull it out despite that.
Oh man!
Did you have a bad Meyer, PH?
No, I had an okay Meyer, and then I screwed up Vidi. I entered Vidi with 10 hearts. I finished with 1. And it was.
Dang!
It was not good. It was not good.
There were a couple of moments in both of your runs, actually, that pretty sure Malmo and I and everybody else in chat were making some very interesting noises. Yes.
I believe it.
Bet.
I believe it. That was I mean, it's a great time. Like, so first, and also Retro, thank you so much for the race, dude. These are.
Yeah.
And
We
to
had been
everyone putting on the league.
We've been wanting to race each other since
Yeah.
August or September. Like, we were messaging each other on Discord, and then we.
Oh, for sure.
And it just never happened. And then we both got into league, and just so happens our first race was against each other.
Oh, it was really funny too because he messaged me on the side and he's like, "Hey, do you think we'll race each other?" And I was like, "Nah, I'll probably end up against somebody else and then lose, and you'll win, and we'll be in completely different brackets." And then lo and behold, the first race. I was
Yeah,
like,
here we are.
I could not have been more wrong about that, but I was pumped. This is a really cool event. I was glad to be included. Can't say that was the best I'll ever play. Hopefully,
Same.
right? But hopefully, folks had a good time.
Hope so.
I'm
Sorry,
drawing a blank. Is this the first time you guys have been in League?
Yes.
Yes.
We didn't make it last season, and so I worked really hard since then.
Yeah, Retro, your PB has come down like 5 minutes or something since then?
I don't remember, but I'm still working on it.
Fair.
Is any runner ever truly done?
Yeah.
Eri tells me I'm here forever.
And the problem is you can't even get mad at him when he says that because he's such a nice guy that it's like, you know, he's cursing you to a lifetime of this, and still you're like, oh, Eri, that's so nice. Twin Mama, do you have any questions, or just kind of like, Lord, what were these people doing?
Probably, but I can't remember.
I asked the question I had, which was Retro going to take a intentional death in TR? But other than that, you know, I hope you guys both had fun. And we'll be back for more NMG League later this week.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
Yeah, can't wait. Thank you guys so much.
All right. Really appreciate it. I hope everyone had a great time. And thanks also to, as you just joined, Ricky of Kokiri for also kind of running the show here.
Yes. Thank you.
No worries. No worries at all. Are we good to wrap up?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, so thank you to our runners, Retro and PH. Thank you so much for the awesome race. It was a lot of fun to watch. And thank you to our commentators, Malmo and Twinmo. I put their links in the chat. Please give everybody a follow. That's going to do it for ZSR tonight. Coming up tomorrow, 12:30 p.m. Eastern. On Wednesday, we have the Minish Cap Randomizer Season 4 Tournament Grand Finals Game 2 between Myth 197 and Neon Kato. That's going to be very hype, a lot of fun to watch. At 4 p.m. Eastern, we have the Breath of the Wild 80% Tournament. Lower bracket round 1 between Harmjan 387 and Light Annalise. And for the AOTTP NMG League, at the moment on the schedule, the next race is on Thursday, 10:30 p.m. Eastern between Chex Human and Spleeby. So that's going to be a lot of fun to watch as well. And of course, more matches being scheduled all the time, so check it out. With that, we're going to go ahead and sign off here. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Hope you had a wonderful time and have a fantastic rest of your night.